So we're live November 6th, Rolland Market Mashup, and we just got the jobs report, and the futures are down, but if anything, they've come up a tad bit since the jobs report was released.
No, I think the jobs report is in a minute, no? Did it come out?
No, you're right. It's coming out right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not seeing it yet.
Well, no, he's saying it on TV as we speak.
Well, we'll see it in the future.
Regardless, anyway, I mean, look, the big thing here is the last 2 days essentially got us right back to where we were before the flush out last week. It's actually been one of the wildest swings in the markets since I've been in the markets, at least for the last like 6 or 7 years, just how rapid and quick the changes have been. And I guess that presents the question that's on everybody's mind. Is this one of those moments where you even buy the dip for a much bigger rally to come? Or, does today make you sit back and pause and realize that you basically are right back to where you were before you lost the big gains that you had? And are you in a position where you should probably take something off the table? I really don't know. I've been kind of just sitting back and watching this chaos unfold. And it appears like the election's completely over, but obviously everyone's got their own opinions about that. I will say, last night for the first time, you had some, legit Republicans come out kind of trying to defend the fact that there might be fraud. And to me, until there's way more of that, nothing's really serious. It's all just hearsay. You start having guys like Lindsey Graham come out, which he did last night, and Mitch McConnell, and they
defending Trump.
This whole thing. That's when I'll start to worry a little about like maybe what'll happen. I don't really know.
I mean, they came out and defended Trump. Those are guys that were reelected that are going to be sticking around. They would have zero reason to do that under fake circumstances when you think about their reputations. So
yeah, well, bottom line is clearly there's just unknowns still here in the future with this whole situation.
That's why I buckle up.
Or maybe not, but it seems like a lot of people are putting money into the market as if this is a done deal. And I mean, Dad, what are your thoughts on what's going on with everything, with the markets, with the election?
Yeah, well, first of all, I think what's going to happen is they will see how these states come out, whether or not they'll go forward with the lawsuits remains to be seen on how clear a path there could be for him to win. If Trump loses Georgia, which it looks like he's going to do.
No. He's going to win Georgia. The military votes are coming in later.
Wait a minute.
9,000.
Let's say he loses Georgia and he loses Pennsylvania. The road gets harder and harder for him to win. So they may decide it's not worth going through all the lawsuits. It depends. Then on the Senate race, there's going to be a runoff, it looks like, for the 2 seats in Georgia, and that will determine the Senate. So there's going to be probably $1 billion thrown into those 2 races. Huge advertising. Maybe it's good for Facebook. I don't know. But nothing's going to be decided on the Senate till one of those races, or both of those races, are decided.
Well, yeah, the Senate's fine because the guy in Michigan legally won, and we're going to be seeing that coming out soon. So there's no worry about the Republican Senate. I can promise you that.
Well, the Michigan thing was called the other way. So
yeah, exactly, Dad, and it was voter fraud, which we're seeing. We're going to see. I would buckle up with viewers though, because there's a lot of uncertainty here, and there are facts that are coming out that you should look out for. The market is going to be uncertain.
Ted Cruz last night, and he dealt with the Gore Bush stuff in 2000, and he said you got to really, for the courts to actually change votes or cancel votes, it's a big hurdle for that to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I think you got to see how all the states come out first to see if there's a path that even.
Yeah, we'll see. Time tells as it always does.
I think.
What are we looking at stock-wise today?
I don't think.
Well, look, Zillow had their earnings yesterday and had their best quarter ever. Had profits, had good revenues, higher than expectations. They're getting some upgrades this morning, even though Bank of America maintain them and underperform, which is frustrating to see. But they got other upgrades in the range of 132, and they got a upgrade to 33. That's ridiculous. But yeah, Zillow had a big quarter and their stock's up nice pre-market here. Mike, I know you own Zillow. I own Zillow too. I'm in them for the long haul. I believe in the fact that this is still an industry that has a lot of changing ahead of it, and that makes me excited about companies like Zillow because everyone is obsessed with that platform. And if the real estate industry is going to kind of evolve the way that everything else has evolved, where maybe there's a day where real estate agents aren't really as prevalent or the way they do things is way more digital, I like Zillow. And, it seems like in the grand scheme of things, they're still kind of a small company. I think Redfin also had their earnings yesterday, and they also had good earnings, but I don't follow their stock. I only follow Zillow. So, that's one company. And then, there's a ton of earnings that have been coming out. But Take-Two is another one. I know, last week Activision had a good quarter, but they reported their quarter when the market was just getting flushed out. So they obviously sold off. And I don't follow Activision. I know you do, but I own Take-Two. And I imagine Activision's also up this morning. Take-Two, they make Grand Theft Auto as well as a bunch of other games, and they're absolutely crushing it. And, I think the future is bright for them. They're going to keep crushing it. We're not in this short-term era where people are playing more video games. Video games are evolving with the way they provide entertainment. With all this live streaming, people are revisiting it, and older people are doing it. Even I see Barstool Sports is big with all these leagues. By the way, the futures are rising pretty aggressively since we started talking here. Dad, you got any thoughts?
I didn't see the labor numbers, but I'm sure they were better than expected, and that's why you're seeing this.
638,000 versus 672,000 in September. I honestly don't even know how to read these things. I don't know what people are looking for.
Everything is based on what they're expecting, so it must be better than expected as far as what the market is looking for. That's all you have to know.
It did beat expectations is what I'm saying.
Yeah, now whether those numbers are really good numbers, it makes no difference whatsoever. It's all on you.
And let's talk about CVS. They had a great earnings and are up, I think 2.5% or so pre-market here.
Yeah, that's a good call, Mike.
Yeah, Mike, you've been talking about them nonstop. So.
Well, yeah, they're healthcare. You're going to see that stock just shifting gears here. I think they're in its infancy of growth.
Yeah, and look, JP Morgan just turned positive pre-market. Alibaba's positive after selling off because of their earnings yesterday. And, people are going to monitor that Ant story closely, but I'm sure it's making people hesitant with Chinese stocks in general, knowing that they could just pull the plug like that. Let's talk about, though, I know we talk about them all the time, but DraftKings and Penn were both up 10% yesterday. DraftKings right now is at 41.85. I would be very confident that this stock turns green today. Penn, same thing, at 64.85 today. I actually sold call options on Penn yesterday at a 68 strike price for November 20th and picked up over $2 per option. So I was pretty excited about that. And maybe I'll sell that today at the open if Penn is actually down. But I kind of think the market's going to rally today. Obviously, I could be way off here, but just when you kind of monitor what people are saying on Twitter and just what the narrative is, people are still very unsure. And everyone kind of thinks that the market's still really choppy and probably going to go back down. And I saw people were trying to, time shorts yesterday on Twitter. People were trying to call talks. And that kind of tells me that maybe you have more room to run. I'll throw it over to you guys. But the last thing I'll say is I saw this chart this morning, and it showed the cash that's been invested into the stock market really for the last, I'd say, 80 to 90 years. And it shows the different levels based on if you have a Republican or a Democrat in office. And the increase in, at least based on this chart, the amount of money that gets invested in the markets when there's a Democrat is significantly higher. Like when you look at what happened during the Clinton administration and during the Obama administration, mainly the Clinton administration versus the Bush and obviously Trump, one-term president, the same thing, it suggests that the market could go really high over the next 4 years. And I don't know what your guys' thoughts are on that, but that's just something I'm keeping in mind.
Well, yeah, Democratic president and Republican Senate has been historically the best thing for the market with returns.
You know, you also have to be careful with those stats because a lot of Democrats have come in after big problems in the world, like the Depression. So,
But can you kind of make the argument that that's happening again right now with the coronavirus?
No, well, not with the stock market, but you can make the argument with the economy. But when, for example, when Roosevelt came in, things couldn't be worse. And when Obama came in, things could not be worse. So for the stock market not to go up during those terms, these guys would have had to do every policy in the wrong direction plus. I mean, they couldn't throw anything at it to make it go down when you're already at the bottom. And over the years, the Democrats always bring that up. But the reality is when you have to see what's been going on in the previous 4 years to really, get a handle on what will happen in the next 4 years. I mean, this is impossible times to try to.
Yeah. No, look, that's a good point. And you know what? We will bring up our viewer here, Justin, because I just pulled up this TTD stock, and we've never really talked about them much because, quite frankly, I don't really know what they are. But if you've been a buyer of the stock, you've done great. I mean, they're up nice pre-market. They're up $84.
What's the symbol?
TTD. And it stands for the Trade Desk, and it's a global technology company that markets a software platform used by digital ad buyers to purchase data-driven digital advertising campaigns. So, it caters to the world we're in, and their revenue in 2018, I'm just looking briefly, in 2018, which was obviously a couple years ago.
It's over 728 today, huh?
Yeah, and I'm just looking at the one-year chart. I mean, like I said, this viewer has been talking about this for a while. It was down to under 200 in March. So yeah, I mean, look, good call here. I don't know anything about this company, but for whatever reason, the other times that he brought it up, I thought he was talking about like TD Ameritrade or like one of the trading. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's cool. And then I saw Peloton had their earnings today and absolutely crushed it, but their stock, like normal, sells off when they have earnings. And you got to wonder, like, how much they can continue to keep up with the growth that they're seeing right now. Eventually, people have their equipment. I don't know. Maybe I'm, like, just dead wrong about this story.
Well, one of the reasons the stock is down is actually because they are having shortages of parts.
But they've been saying that every quarter. That's been their theme throughout the pandemic. But yeah, I mean, look, last time Peloton reported their earnings, they also crushed it and their stock sold off. And now they're 20% higher than they were then. Their stock has gone on an epic run, and it's hardly selling off, to be honest. It's down $4.50, and it also is one of the stocks that really held up nicely earlier in the week and last week when the market was completely flushing out. I think, like, I would randomly check on Peloton. It seemed like it was doing okay. So that's what's going on there. Oh, yeah, another stock that I own and bought more of yesterday off of a Kramer pick through his Actions Plus, which he's normally good at, is Norton LifeLock, which has been an absolute dud. And they had their earnings, and from what it looks like, they had a beat, and they increased their projections, but their stock's down. It was down more yesterday. It's down 62 cents right now, which is a little under 3%. Mike, do you own them?
I did. No, I sold them for a tax loss like 6 weeks ago.
Yeah, so I owned a little, and then yesterday I decided to double down. And, I don't own like a crazy amount, but I figured Kramer was having like, I like when stocks have kind of just been not acting well leading up to earnings, and it's like, you know what I mean?
That was CVS. That's why he was a big CVS guy, and I finally was like, this thing's too low.
Yeah. And Mike,
I get a lot of bottom picking But the only issue you have coming into the end of the year is people will take losses against some of their gains, and those stocks could get exaggerated on the downside. So this time of year, you almost want to wait till the last couple of weeks in December after they've already been hit harder.
But Dad, well, didn't you kind of suggest yesterday and the day before that might have happened earlier than usual because people were trying to reposition for potentially a blue wave and how that would impact?
Well, the stocks that were down and are not showing capital gains, people can wait till the last minute of the year to sell those, right? So, I think what people were doing were hedging their big capital gain positions. And a lot of what we've seen in the last few days is covering of options to undo that because they're not worried about the capital gains now.
Gotcha.
But, at the end of the day, the Senate's not for sure, so they might have been premature on that.
Neither is the presidency. So,
well, I think they're more sure about the presidency than the Senate.
I don't know who they is, but we'll find out how that plays out.
Yeah, oils, I don't know about oil as a whole. I'm sure oil as a whole is positive, but BP just turned a little green.
Yeah, and the oils are also an example of those stocks that people have losses in, that they're going to be under pressure, and they're probably a good first quarter purchase.
I saw something that makes me think you're going to see oil outperform gold over the next few months. And I know I keep bringing this up as like a reliable thing, but when you have thousands of people taking polls and you have 75% saying one thing, usually the opposite is what happens.
Yeah.
And someone did a poll with gold versus oil, and it was 75 to 25 gold versus oil. And it made me think oil is probably going to outperform gold. It also is why I texted you guys about having the idea of maybe I'd sell my Bitcoin yesterday and get back in at a later point. I'm not going to do it because I don't know, make a crazy amount. But I think Bitcoin might take like a big breather before it ultimately does go way higher. And the reason I'm not going to sell it is because I don't trust myself to time any dip. Like if it goes back down to 10,000, I don't know if I'd buy it.
Yeah, I mean, the Bitcoin is in the no man's land until it gets to the high now because it ran up so fast when it did go to 19,000 the first time that technically it's kind of has a free ride, until it gets close to the high.
Yeah, I would not sell that, Dan.
But yeah, I'm not going to. I'm going to just hold it. It's a very, very small percentage of my portfolio, and you never know is my thing with that. And if it went to zero one day, whatever. And I don't think
it's going to 100K before it goes to zero.
You're probably right.
It's going where?
To 100K. It's not going to zero.
And then, excuse me, another thing, Uber, they had their earnings yesterday, and their stock's actually now up pre-market. I mean, the market is rallying right now.
Well, yeah, Uber, the revenues being down was normal. Clearly Uber Eats is looking great.
Yeah, they just got an upgrade to 49 from 41 at Redbush. And they got some other upgrades to 49.
Yeah, your Uber, it's been beaten down a lot. We talked about it the last couple of weeks. You had a great opportunity to get in this a couple of weeks ago, very low. Now it's starting to climb.
Yeah, and let's just look at the chart here because what's the all-time high on Uber? Yeah, to me, it's almost there. Once you get above like the 45 levels, that's when it's going to kind of maybe remind me of Snapchat where you're going to just get through any prior resistance and maybe that thing just starts to really tick up way higher. I mean, ultimately, I always thought, like even a year ago, seeing Uber in like the wait, weren't they in the 50s at one point? Am I looking at?
I don't know. I didn't know them in the 50s.
But yeah, I mean, look, I think Uber is a stock that's going to give you big, big gains on your investment in the future. If you like a buy and hold on, like 10 years from now, I could see Uber being a stock that's like 5-6 times higher than where it is here. I also feel that way about Zillow and a bunch of other
stocks to just hold.
What'd you say?
Good stocks to just hold. Anchor.
Yeah, this will crack you up. Yesterday, Kramer was basically saying that stocks have replaced bonds as where investors should look at as like a safe place to maintain their wealth. And he was saying it's like a new thesis he kind of has, and it's his first time thinking that. And he was talking about how when he like used to go work at Goldman Sachs back in the day, and he was all pumped up about pitching stocks to the clients. They were like, "We don't want you to pitch stocks, only bonds, because these are wealthy clients." And he was like telling the story. It was kind of interesting actually. And he was saying, they only wanted me to sell bonds because these clients were wealthy already, and you only need to get wealthy once. And they weren't trying to get more wealthy; they were trying to maintain. And he was like, now you can't be in bonds. You got to be in stocks. And, Kramer's all over the place when these markets are going up and down. But he ultimately was saying when the market was starting to rally off of those pandemic lows, this is going to be like 2009, where it really, really goes to the moon. He's been sticking to that. So I give him credit for that. He's been a bull when others haven't been.
Yeah, I did hear Leon Cooperman this morning, who's always been bullish, and he's definitely turning more, I would say, negative on the market and going back to stock picking as the way to figuring it out. He's concerned about the debt, which I guess anyone my age and older, that's what they think about.
Yeah, Cuban had a whole thing on that. That I really am not worried about the debt. I think that's all overblown.
Are you talking about Cuban, like with the robots as workforces and paying taxes like humans, that whole thing?
Well, that was part of it, but he was just talking about how debt is always, like, deficits and debt are always just blown way out of proportion with what
they are blown away sometimes, but the reason people aren't worried about it now is because rates are so low, so the government can absolutely, refinance at extremely low rates. But if rates start ticking up and they lose control of it, which could happen, then you're going to have what your scenario is, Mike, and that's why Bitcoin is probably acting better.
I mean, I think Bitcoin also, you look at this whole potential of voter fraud, what naturally pops up is, distrust of government. So decentralization, you have to think that's going to help crypto, just this hearsay alone.
Yeah, I don't know if that's why Bitcoin's going up now.
No, I'm not saying that's why. That's just another indicator of a reason people are behind it.
Look, voter fraud is handled by the courts, and the courts will make a decision based on the evidence.
Yeah, it's just interesting when you hear Ruth Bader Ginsburg dying when she did.
At the end of the day, if they can't find real evidence,
that there's already real evidence. The reality is the Amy Coney Barrett, the new Supreme Court appointee, right after Ruth Bader Ginsburg dying, that's bigger than anyone realizes.
Well, I don't even think the Supreme Court is going to take any of these cases.
Well, we'll find out.
They don't want to be involved in politics.
Mm-hmm. We will see.
Last night, it's weird. I saw that Twilio did like a stock offering, but it looks like it almost got like removed because I can't find anything about it.
Maybe it was a dream you had.
No, it wasn't, because their stock went down from like 308 to like 298, and after hours, it was like at nighttime it was happening, and it's not necessarily back. It's back a little bit, but I can't find anything about it. I was like, it was weird. It was showing that like insiders were the ones that were selling the stock to do the offering. Is there anything you're seeing on that?
I'm looking for the news. I don't see anything.
So small cap 2000 futures have turned positive. US 30 futures have turned positive. Tech is way off of its lows, back above 12,000, which was a key level of support yesterday. And US 500s are almost flat. So, if you're looking at your portfolio now, you've probably seen a lot of stocks turn positive over the last 10 years.
Yeah. DKNG, when you mentioned it, Dan, I went and just bought a small bit because you're probably right. It will go positive, and it's already only down 50 cents.
Nice. Good call. Yeah, I already own way too much of DKNG, or I'd be like buying it along the way up, but I'm just sick to my stomach with the way that stock went from 62 to 32 in like the matter of 2 weeks. Dad, have you ever seen, I'm sure you have, but like, could you really picture DraftKings literally just going right back up to where it was? Is that even possible?
it's hard to imagine, but it could happen. I mean, it's much harder, as we know, for a stock to go up than down.
For sure. And you got to think people are like a little pissed off with the way that all went down with, you know what I mean? Like it was almost not right with the way that happened. Like I look at Penn and I look at DraftKings, and now I look at Penn as like almost like a more comfortable stock to own because I don't know.
Think about what we've been talking about also. You know, DraftKings had a lot of people that are insiders that are allowed to sell the stock. And I don't think they are right now because you're close to the earnings. So that could be part of the reason the stock is getting this move. But the pressure should also be off because they don't have to worry about capital gains.
You don't think those people are done selling their stock?
I'm sure there's plenty more out there.
Damn.
There's a lot of stock.
Yeah, you're right. Even guys like Michael Jordan that were probably issued a shitload of stock to join the company, right?
Mm-hmm. I don't think he'd be able to sell it. But, you know, I don't know what all the restrictions are on the stock, but the pressure should be off.
Penn just turned green. We'll see. You know, that stock always bounces around pre-market, but Penn is the best stock ever to day trade because and you could almost play this like because it happens 85% of the time, so you could do it every time and just know that 15% of the time it won't work out. But you buy Penn right off the open, it always goes up nice, and then about 4.5 minutes later, it flushes out and then goes back negative. So I normally will wait for the flush out and like actually try and short Penn after the open pop just for like a 2-minute trade because it happens so quick and it's almost like it happens every single time. It's incredible. It's crazy. Like if you watch these stocks that open, you know, they get open bid and they go up 1-2%. And Mike, this is where the RSI is fascinating to watch because this is the best time to use the RSI. You'll see stocks right when they open. If you watch it right at the open, get its bid, and you'll see the RSI will be like at 90. And you'll watch the
1-day RSI you're talking about.
Yeah, and you'll know like, okay, this is like an opening buy order bid, and once it's through, the stock's going to naturally come down because the buyer's going to be done, and it happens every time. It's a very reliable early trade that's due like right off the bat. You obviously got to be watching which stock you're doing it with, but it happens with most of them. It's crazy. Same with the other side. If there's a early morning sell bid, you'll see the RSI will be in like 20 and it'll be down in like the way where it can't get any lower while it's flushing out. You kind of just wait for the moment. It's crazy. Thoughts on U.S. Steel today, Dad? I know yesterday you guys had a big day on that.
Yeah, it's acting okay. This is just going to be one of these infrastructure stocks that will trade with infrastructure. And you get a lot of leverage because it's a cheaper stock. So I get the feeling a lot of retail play it. So you can get a 7, 8, 10% move in a day, which is nice. I don't think it'll be today, but
it might be. Now look at NEO once again positive. 14 million shares traded pre-market.
That stock was down over $2 pre-market.
I know. It's incredible that NEO right now is over $42. The stock was like a $15 stock a month ago, or maybe a month and a half ago, 2 months ago. It has gone on one of the most epic runs ever. And I think it's a mixture of them actually doing pretty well in China, but also I think people are trying to like catch the next Tesla. And people are looking at NEO and they're like, could this possibly do what Tesla did? And is this like my chance to get in early? Because other than that, like it just doesn't make sense. It's crazy. Every single day. What's Plug doing today?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting that the banks are acting so well. I mean, obviously, this Senate thing is bigger than we think. And, you know, there were a lot of people that felt if the Senate went strongly Democratic, that Elizabeth Warren could be the Treasury Secretary. And that is totally off the table now because there's no way they're going to take a Democratic senator away.
For sure.
Into the cabinet.
That's a good point. Yeah, I didn't even think of the fact that that's like kind of how that works. And yeah, well, since you're bringing that up to end this, because I know we have like 20 seconds left, the Fed yesterday, like if anything, I thought he was almost sending a loud and clear message like, hey, we're not, and I know it's like impossible for them to really do this, but we're not going to really let the stock market crash. If we do too, we're going to change our policies on what we could do. Like he basically flat out said that. He was like, if we need to get more aggressive with buying assets and need to rewrite the way the program's designed, we'll just do it. And
that's like a step away from just buying stocks.
it's incredible that they're like, don't they have anybody to report to that has to approve these things?
I missed what you just said. It got broken up.
Doesn't he have anybody that needs to like approve of the actions of the Fed? It seems like they kind of just write their own playbook.
No, that has to be approved. That can't be
By who?
something they just do.
By who? By who?
Not the exact procedure, but I think the Treasury has to be behind that.
Gotcha. Because it seems like, there's certain people out there that seem to think that the Fed just have like their own playbook that they can just do whatever they want. No one's going to ever question it. I'll tell you that Sven Henrik guy I always talk about that's been great with the charts. He's like disgusted by the fact that Jerome Powell is like made out to be some American hero right now. It's like on the front of Time magazine. It's actually really funny to follow him on Twitter because he posted a picture yesterday of the Zoom panel with all the guys on it, and he photoshopped himself into it. And he was like, this meeting would be way more interesting with this panel because he always is like wanting to grill that guy. Well, that's it, guys. Rolling market matchup. This should be an interesting day in the markets. It's rallied quite a bit off the lows since we started talking to the point where you might get another huge day because there's a lot of people on the sidelines and there's a lot of people trying to short this market. And if they're wrong, they have to cover. And I think there's a lot of like retail players trying to short this market. That's a dangerous game. So go on.